In the company section, we have company, so we'll start there. This is where you're going to find some basic information about your dealership, including the name, address, phone number, and some contact information on the Contact Information tab. We also have an email server tab where we will help you set up your email. Anytime you are adding or changing information on these forms, please always make sure to click Save. The next item we'll look at today is the location. When you're setting up a new location, please be sure to reach out to our support staff so that we can get everything set up accordingly for your new location. Please notice that when I went to the location item, it automatically shows me all of the locations for my dealership. I can then click to edit, or I can add a new. On the location form, again, there's a lot of basic detail that we will be adding here, including your location and your sub-location. You have your dealer's license, your service license, and then on the right side, county, state, and the FEID. Down below, including your phone number, along with the billing and shipping address, we have your contacts. On the Location Logo tab, there is a place for you to browse and add your dealership logo. The sales tax information includes your sales tax ID, a place for you to choose if you are charging sales tax on labor only with parts, tax parts only, or tax labor and parts. Below is where you will add in the tax rates, along with a maximum allowed and a minimum price if available. At the bottom, then you will mark, are you charging taxes on shop supplies, environmental fees, sublets, freight, and core parts. And then the other tab is for parts and service information. So we have your suggested markup rate, and then you also have a percentage that you can charge on your shop supplies and environmental fees, which also include a cap if you have one. There's your profit margins listed, and down below is your technician scheduler hours. This is a required section, so you'll assign your service hours here. And then save. That's your location information. All right, we'll move on to employees. And if I search with the active button marked here, it will show me all my active employees. There is an option to add a new employee. And please notice I'm going to compare this to an existing employee. So on the right side is the new employee form versus on the existing employee in this section. So we do use the multi-factor authentication. So if the box is marked for the employee can sign on here, then the multi-factor authentication information will show here. So again, here on the right, we have our new employee form. If I click on the employee can sign on, you see how the multi-factor information has displayed. I'm going to close the new form on the right side and use only the existing employee here because I want to show you a shortcut on adding a new employee. So this is an existing employee. If I have a new employee that's going to have the same or similar permissions, I can access the existing employee and then click on Copy Permissions. It then opens the new employee form, and because I did copy permissions, the box for employee can sign on is automatically marked, and the multi-factor authentication information is available for us to complete. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and just mention that up at the top is where you will add in the employee's name. So at the top of the form, you will add the employee's first and last name. EverLogic has automatically assigned a reference number. We've already mentioned the employee can sign on button, and then you also have an employee active button. Now, I will mention this option here. For some reason, this employee is no longer working at your dealership. I would encourage you to remove the check mark here, and this employee will remain in the system in case they were to come back and work with your dealership at some time in the future. I would use this option versus using the delete option at the top, but it's totally up to you. All right, and then down below on the Employee Information tab, this is where you will assign them a specific location. Unless you assign a separate username, an employee can only be assigned to one location at a time. And the employee type, so if they are parts, service, or sales, maybe an accounting or an admin employee. You can also assign them to a specific department, a title, and then indicate who they report to. And please make sure that you mark this box if the employee is a manager. All right, and then below you have your email address along with your email password. Remember, this is the email password, not the EverLogic password. Very important when you're adding your email here that you add your email password. Down below you have your phone numbers and your birth date. Now the birth date is available for us if you require support to assist you with the multi-factor authentication. And then your address below. All right, let's go ahead and move over to the User Information tab. And this is where you will assign the employee the user ID for them to log into EverLogic on a daily basis, along with a temporary password where you will need to add the password and confirm it. And the employee can then go over to their profile and change the password. On the right side, you will assign them a panel, and this is what gives them access to the panel on the left side. Down below the panel, you have the option to give the employee access to the dashboard and to assign a security level. Okay, we are currently using security level -1 or 0. These security levels are for access to scanned documents. So for instance, on most of our windows, we have the toolbar option for documents. This is where you will add or view your scanned documents. And this security level is what gives this employee permission to view low secured items. That would be a -1. Instead, if you would like the employee to have access to secured documents that may include personal identifiable information like your social security numbers, address, phone numbers, then you would assign a 0 here. I'd like to take just a moment to show you where these security levels will be found on your documents. From your Home tab, if I go to Documents, when you scan in items, you have your security level listed at the top. And as we mentioned, a -1 would be assigned to those documents that do not include sensitive information. A 0 security level would be included for those documents that do include personal identifiable information. And down below, there is a place for you to add a number of minutes. And this will determine when the employee will be automatically logged out of EverLogic due to inactivity. Down below we have our permissions. Our permission buttons are listed to the right, and please notice they are all currently turned on. I know that because these buttons are now showing in blue. I will point out the items listed below. These are the different permissions. And you will remember we clicked on the Copy Permissions button when we created this new employee. So it automatically marked all of the permissions that the current employee had. So if you needed to come in and maybe remove a couple of these, if they needed to be different. Another way you can look at these permissions is by turning off one or more of the buttons that are listed above. So watch what happens down below in the display panel when I start clicking on the buttons above. So you'll notice they start changing, and now because the only button that is blue that's turned on is the Parts and Service button. Now you will only see those permissions for your Parts and Service employees. And then please allow me to point out the two buttons to the right. One is for access, the other is for authority. So you will notice the description of the permissions listed below. Some of them show access, the others show authority. So if I were to turn off the authority button, then it would only show me now access to Parts and Service, since those are the only two buttons that are showing in blue. All right, so once you have everything included in the employee profile that you've created, always make sure you click on Save. Again, if there are any required fields, you will receive a pop-up message reminding you to go back and complete those fields. We will now take a look at the workstation. All right, these are all of the workstations that have been set up for my dealership. You can see different locations and different workstation names. If you are looking for information about your workstation that you're currently logged into, you can click on this workstation button. And here you have your location, some specifics listed below on the workstation detail. And then we have your point of service tab. This is where we will work with you during implementation to set up your printers, your cash drawer, and your credit card device. Next are the system rules. Think of the rules as what tells EverLogic what to do. So here you will be able to see which department the rule applies to. I'm going to share with you some examples today. For example, accounting. So when I choose accounting, you notice the list now only shows those rules applied to my accounting department. The rule code may be abbreviated or words may be combined together. They are listed in alphabetical order. The example I'm going to point out today is the warranty payment type. So for instance, if this rule is turned on using the number 1, then you will be able to use non-warranty payment types such as check, credit card. This is useful so in case the customer is required to pay a deductible on your warranty repair orders. If this rule is turned off with a 0, then that would only allow you to use the warranty payment type on warranty repair orders. You also have some rules here for your QuickBooks, which our support staff can help you as necessary. By the way, from time to time, these system rules may need to be adjusted based on specific error messages that you may receive specifically when you're working with your end-of-day processes or sending items to QuickBooks. All right, and then we have your system rules for your interfaces, and this is where items that are required within the system are added, such as your App 1 information or your credit card merchant ID. Okay, keep in mind that when you're working with some of these system rules, the answers are very specific. As I mentioned in the rule earlier, 0 is turned off, 1 is turned on. Some of the rules you'll have very specific words to use, and it is case sensitive. So please notice, for instance, if you're going to print an invoice receipt, on this rule, you will include the word receipt for a printout with listed parts and related charges. You would click standard if you only want to display totals. Again, these are case sensitive. So when you click on that rule and you're typing in the answer, you'll want to make sure that the answer you key is very specific. Always click OK. You'll want to make sure to click on the Save button at the top. It is a good idea, once you have saved the rule answer, is that you also log out of EverLogic and log back in order for the rule to be accepted. This is where you will also have the option for your low stock quantity. So when you're working with an invoice or a repair order, you will receive a pop-up message indicating if this item is low in stock. Again, in the description, it will tell you here, 0 is turned off, 1 will warn you, and 2 will not add low parts to either an invoice or a repair order if it's running low. If your dealership performs service follow-ups, there is an option here for you to choose the number of days that will be set up for your service follow-up calls. You can change the apply to rule to sales, and then we will only see those rules that apply to the sales department. In your sales department, if you do post-sales follow-up, there is an option here for your sold follow-up days, and you would just include in the answer the number of days that you wish to follow up on those sold vehicles. Also, when you're working with a new customer and when you are assigning a status to your customer, please notice the pop-up will show you those follow-up days. Those follow-up days are assigned in this system rules section. For example, my cold days follow-up is set up at 30 days. My hot days follow-up is set for 2 days. We also have one for warm days follow-up below. That is, for the most part, the most common system rules that we may be working with on a regular basis. Again, most of that is set up for you when you sign up with EverLogic, and we set up your database during your implementation period. Our next item is titles. These are the titles that you can use when you are setting up employees in your system. The departments are the different departments that can be assigned to your employees that you've added. The addressing is automatically included in EverLogic, and this is the county and zip, city and state of your locations. So again, all of that is automatically included in your database. All right, and the next option is for your text messaging. Please be sure to work with EverLogic on enrollment for text messaging. And we then have our task list statuses. Now, these task list statuses are going to be available to you when you're working on the Sales Operations tab and you go to your task list. So here are the tasks that I am assigned to. These task list statuses are based upon those that are set up in the System Setup tab under Task List Statuses. There is also the option for a task list priority.